Gen Z falls for more scams than their boomer grandparents by like 3 times.
Why does that not surprise me?
You know what most of it is?
What?
Or at least what I've seen?
I'm so fascinated. Ryan, can you please let everyone know your major?
So I have 3 college degrees. I've got a bachelor's in marketing and a bachelor's in international relations with a concentration in terrorism, ethnic cleansing, and civil war. And then after that, I moved on and I was at Disney, and I wanted to get paid more. And since that couldn't be done financially, they had something called the Disney Aspire program, which where you could for free get another degree. And so I was like, I got time. And so I have my master's degree with a concentration in Homeland Security, which comes out to being an MBA with concentration in Homeland Security.
That's wild. So explain what that means. Because I know I've talked about, I'm so excited to talk to my friend Ryan. He has a master's in Homeland Security. And they're like, what does that mean? And I'm like, you know what? I don't know.
Gosh, I wish I fully understood. Because Homeland Security is so nebulous and it's always changing. So it's meant a lot of different things, especially with the MBA side, was figuring out, essentially how money and crime relate and what's funding what, where money's going.
Okay.
The other things that I studied specifically were bombers and lone wolves. And so I've written more papers on the Oklahoma City bombing and white nationalists out of Idaho than I can even care to speak about. So yeah, it's been very interesting to kind of see that. And then now, of course, I mess with scammers, which took a much lighter tone than all of that. Because I've been to the Waco compound, which by the way, the cult is still there.
Oh.
I went in and I was talking with them. So for those that don't know, the Waco siege in 93, they're still there. And Jesse was like, hey man,
nervous.
This is starting to get, he was like,
nervous.
but I was like, no, they're peaceful. They're just there's
a little not there.
Yeah. Well, and also I'm still had my concerns about how people were treated on the compound and things like that, but very few people lived there at all. And it was just a really strange experience. But
fascinating.
It felt like you were stepping into another world.
I feel like there's 2 kinds of people. There's us that's tell me more. I need to see this and look at it and hear all about it. And there's other people, like Jesse, Avery, who are like, hey, can we go?
Do we have to be here?
Can we go anywhere else other than here? And now you mess with scammers.
And now I mess with scammers and it's super light and nice.
Yeah. And it's funny. How did you get into that?
I got scammed.
How'd you get? Okay, tell me the story.
So I was moving from Los Angeles back to St. Louis. I am so happy to be back in St. Louis. It's so beautiful and nice, and it's green, and the air is nice. And
I love it here.
It's so nice. And I was moving back, and my girlfriend's job was she was securing moving for our stuff, and I was securing moving for the cars, which is obviously a much easier task.
Yes.
And I still messed it up way worse. I went through a company called Shipley, which they're like a broker and they connect you with people that can ship your cars. And so I was like, perfect. And they set me up with a company, and Shipley's actually very registered, and also their CEO is super cool. I actually
we love that
because he's the one who got me my money back actually at the end.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's which I just want to give him full credit for that because it was really good dude.
Okay.
So I ended up I go through Shipley. They set me up with this company. I'm super excited. I go for it. And they're like, hey, you send the deposit, which is pretty normal.
Yeah.
And ghosted. Gone.
Oh.
And I was like, oh no. And so I contact Shipley's customer support, and they're not doing anything because their customer support actually is terrible. I think that they're changing it now, but it was awful. And also they're normally a European-based company. So I think that they weren't expecting stuff like that. And so I was super annoyed. And I was like, okay, I have this master's degree in Homeland Security. And most of my stuff wasn't digital, obviously, from what I've said previously. It was a lot of bombers and lone wolves and things like that, which are just difficult to catch in a different way. But I was like, I understood and had some baseline of how money is transferred, is moved, the crime behind it, and how it's taken digitally. And I was like, I bet I could put this together. And so I knew the hypotheticals of all these things. And so I was like, oh, I guess I'll just I've got a computer that's pretty good. I bet I could run this. And so by the end of day 2, I had their home address. I had their driver's license. I had the people that were involved. And I called their local, by the way, they were out of Indiana.
Oh my my God.
I called their local FBI field office because I'm like, hey, I have all this information. Would you guys mind picking them up? And they go, why do you have all this information? And I explained, I go, I got scammed by a shipping company. And the FBI agent on the other end of the phone goes, dude, no way, me too. And I was like, no, that's not what I wanted to hear. I didn't want to hear that the FBI is also getting scammed. And so you're the guy I came to for this. And he got his money back too, which I was like, man, you picked the wrong guy to scam. No, but ended up giving him all that information. And then I messaged the guy, the CEO of Shipley on LinkedIn, believe it or not. And I was like, hey, man, this is what happened. Your customer service is really kind of screwing me right now. And like, I sent him the TikTok that I had made about it. And that had about 6 million views. And he was like, and he was like, oh, no. And so I was like, look, man, I just want this to be solved. And like, I hope that you guys, and he was like, hey, man, first off, I'm so sorry. Like, we always try to like make this work. I will start fixing like our customer service stuff and I will give you your money back. And so he that's awesome. Which it was really cool. It was $712.50.
Wow.
And so, which for me, like, I don't know, for some people that's not a ton of money, but for me that was a ton of money. And I was just like, oh, this, and especially when you're moving.
Exactly.
And that's what sucks is you're getting taken advantage of while you're moving.
Exactly.
And
that's how they get you.
It's always it's always a desperation thing. It's always a taking advantage of when you're not thinking. I mean, it was a long time ago, but I fell for one of those USPS texts because I was expecting something and I was super tired, woke up from a nap. I was like, oh God, yep, I got to check. And I was like, dang it. So that credit card got canceled. And I was like, son of a gun. But it happens to all of us. Yeah.
I got. I don't know if I've ever even told this story because I was really embarrassed at the time because this was only like a year ago.
Everybody feels stupid. And that's like the stigma behind it is the worst.
Crazy. And like scammers, especially when it comes to scammers for content creators.
They're everywhere.
Has like people who aren't content creators don't even know. So
I probably there was a week where I got 35 different scam emails. They were all from the same. Yes. They were all the same type of scam.
I always usually get them from like people who claim they're with Facebook. I had never gotten one from someone who claimed they were with Instagram before. So what happened was, it was literally in the morning. I had just woken up. I think I had also just come back from a trip. So like I was a little like out of sorts. Yeah. And I checked my email like I do every morning and I had an email that said like copyright claim from Instagram. And I was really concerned and it had a screenshot and a link to my most recent video that I just posted the night before. And it said your content has been flagged for copyright. And it specifically had the link to my profile to this video. Yeah. And it was like if like this has been some kind of mistake, like someone specifically said you stole their video. If you want to refute this, you have to log in and like fill out the form.
And then you go to the clone page.
Because the scammers want access to these big accounts so that they can like send out links to scam their followers. Like that's like been the whole big thing with verification. People are like, why do you care about the check mark? And it's like because there are people who will make fake accounts trying to get kids to
give money.
Exactly.
I have 2 accounts right now that unfortunately I can't get Facebook to take action on, but one's at 2.7 million followers and one's at 18.6 million followers.
Wow.
They've both been hacked.
What? And you can't that's crazy.
Meta's, and I've tried to work, and there's been 2 people at Meta who've actually reached out to me, and they've dealt very briefly, and then they kind of disappear into the void. But like, I need somebody at Meta to be able to help with this type of stuff because
this is a problem for their users, for their Facebook users.
But
and like I didn't even know, and I had a different manager than I have right now, but I just texted him and I was like, Fabio, like I don't know what I did. Like, do you have a contact at Meta that can like redo this? Like, I just filled out the form. And he goes, wait, you filled out what form? And I said, yeah. And he goes, Rebecca, dang it, go change your password right now.
Go change everything.
And I was like, what? He's right now. And so I had to change everything like within 5 minutes. So like, luckily nothing happened.
Wow.
No one had, because I changed it within 5 minutes.
Yep.
So I guess they just didn't have time to like log in. I also have two-step authentication, those kinds of things.
That normally helps,
yes.
Especially if it's like linked to your phone, because normally
it always is linked to my phone.
Because they'd have to like clone that, or which would be tough.
So I always have two-factor authentication to my phone specifically. But still, they didn't have enough time to like log in, get past anything, change anything. So I just changed everything very quickly. No one no one stole my account, thank gosh. But I know so many content creators, like you've had your Instagram or your Facebook hacked and taken.
No, I haven't.
Didn't you say that your Facebook page got hacked?
No, my Facebook's been fine. I've helped other people with their Facebook.
Which one did you just say that Meta wasn't helping you with? Am I crazy?
Oh no, they tried to scam me via Instagram, but I knew what was up, and so I.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought you were saying that it got hacked.
No.
Okay.
I've kept a hold of all of mine at the moment, knock on wood, because no one's invulnerable to anything. But like at the moment, I'm thus far good.
I really encourage like people who watch content creators. Like I always say, like if you know that they have a check mark and someone is messaging you saying message me on my other account, my secret account, or you won a prize, like always check that account. Always check to see, is there a check mark? Is there, when you click on their profile, does it go to the main profile? Like,
or just go to, and it's surprising how many people I've seen fall for like but it was them on a private account, or like it never is. I mean, I've seen people lose tens of thousands of dollars to fake celebrities on like.
Yes. Yeah. Like when, did you see that one where I saw something on TikTok about this guy who got a message. It's like, hey, it's Michael Jackson. I'm really alive. I'm just secretly on an island, but I want to come back to the United States.
I love that.
Can you send me money so I can come back and make music?
Yeah, I love. There have been some so weird ones that I'm like,
how does this work?
Well, that's actually the trick, is you're targeting people that are less intelligently endowed, you know? And so that's the problem, is especially in a lot of these countries that like it comes from. So it depends on what you're getting. A lot of like the shipping scam ones I found are actually US based. And there's a few that are like US based. And, you know, granted, I'm not saying that we're the only country that has this, but like every like sexual predator I've caught has been US.
You've caught sexual predators?
Yes.
I would love for you to tell me about that, because I definitely want to talk about like protecting kids, protecting the elderly. Like, tell me about you catching.
You know what's interesting? So I would love to, especially Gen Z falls for more scams than their boomer grandparents by like 3 times.
Why does that not surprise me? I don't know why.
And you know what most of it is, or at least what I've seen? Sextortion. You're matching with somebody online, some really pretty girl, some, and so you're going to trade nudes, and then all of a sudden they're going to blackmail you and send it to their family. I think I was getting 5 to 8 a day for months.
Wow.
And that's the thing, is it's like, for me, I always, essentially what I do is I social engineer, pretend to be a victim, and then set it up and catch the scammers as they try to get me. It's really tough to do that in, sextortion, because they have all the cards, you know what I mean? And they have let you know, so they are on guard. Yes. And that's very tough to like get back through them. It's a nightmare. And I also try to avoid those cases, especially because I have a bunch of minors coming to me with it. And it's like, I can't look into that. I'm like, I will go to prison.
Yeah. Like you have the degree, but you don't have the job. Like you're doing it like to help people and for funsies.
Yeah. I'm an enthusiastic amateur who's enjoying but there have been some really like sad cases and stuff like that. And it's just, kids are definitely targeted, and especially the first predator that I caught, and I can't talk about the second one yet.
That's okay.
But the first predator I caught was a kid who was playing on Xbox. And I was an Xbox kid. So I was like, and the mom said someone's trolling my son. Okay. And trolling classically does not mean that. It just means, someone's kind of like being an ass. But it sounds like this was like a little kid, and I was like, oh, that's mean. But like, you can always freak people out and just like, or like mess with them a little bit to just leave them alone, or like show them how to block and like block the IP and like send that to Microsoft. So that was my game plan. I was like, we'll just like do a nice thing. And then I messaged the mom back, and she emailed me, and I emailed her back, and I was like, hey, what are we talking about? And she's like, it's really weird stuff. And I was like, what do you mean? And she sent me screenshots, and I was like, this kid's 9, by the way.
Oh.
And so I was like, whoa, but actually, and huge credit, I made a video about it, and this is the honest to God truth, the mom has an amazing relationship with her son.
Oh, that's so
so the son knew something was wrong, told her about it, they talked about it. Like, I ended up creating a fake Microsoft account, or like Xbox account, and I messaged the guy, and I was like, hey, my friend, blah, 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 said that like we should like hang out and that we can play games. And his very first question was, are you a boy or a girl? And it was like this creepy, or how old are you?
Oh my gosh.
And it was just like, I hate it. I
hate everything about these people.
Honestly, it was, and I'd never dealt with anything quite like this before. And I just wasn't prepared for it. I'm not built for that. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I'm very thankful for anybody that is built to handle like anyone at like the National Center for like Missing and Exploited Children, like anybody there that's like.
It takes a certain kind of person to be able to handle knowing how awful and disgusting people can be.
It's true. And it was such a dark thing. And so I didn't sleep for like 2 days because I hadn't pulled the IP yet. And I grabbed the IP. I grabbed the home address. I had everything figured out. And so, but here's what's frustrating, because like our laws are not up to date with cyber.
Yeah.
I call the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation. I don't get a call back. I call the FBI office local to them. We end up talking briefly, but they didn't ask for any information. I end up calling their local police department, and they're like, you have to report it where you are. And I'm like, I'm in St. Louis. That's not going to help.
Yeah.
So I reported to St. Louis, my local cops.
They're like, what?
And they were like, it's cool that you got him, but like we can try to give it to people to like pass along the state lines, but so it's got to be like a federal thing. And then like this family wasn't even out of Tennessee, so it's like, how do you report any of this? Yeah. And eventually, I called their local DA's office, and turns out the woman working at that DA's office was from the same little town in here that I was from. And so we started talking about that, and she was like, here's the cop. He's great. This is what he does. Please call him. So I call the guy. And like hats off to this cop. Like he was this is specifically what he does. And I told him, I gave him all the information. Within like less than a week, he served the warrant, found out who the person was, and like we pulled it, and it was taken care of. And it all gets back to the fact that like have good communication with your kids, but like teach them like what's right, what's wrong. And it was just, I'm very glad that got taken care of. Now, granted, I don't aim to do these cases, and I don't, just because I'm not built for it.
It takes a lot out of,
it just makes me like sick, to be honest. And so it was, but yeah, I was glad that got taken care of, and that's just been some of the stuff, seen different types of crimes from all over, and been really fascinating.
So like obviously like this is you called yourself the amateur enthusiast.
Yeah.
But as the amateur enthusiast, like what do you advise to parents to help keep their kids safe on the internet? Because it's so great that this mom had a good relationship with her son to where he was able to communicate that, but there are a lot of kids that might not be able to or may not even know to relay that information.
Well, and I mean that's the thing, is like if your kid is like naive enough, and that's nothing wrong with that. They're kids.
Yeah, they're children. They're supposed to be naive. Yeah.
Then they might not know that that's coming. And so, I mean, honestly, like I don't know. Some people get like really like sketched out about it, but like checking your kids' like search history, like setting parameters, making sure that they've got like, if you have different platforms that have the ability to like protect them from going to certain sites, like that's totally fine.
That's
you're the adult. Like be the adult. I think that it's, and definitely having a conversation about your kid, like if something makes you uncomfortable, or like if something like there's a softer way to have this conversation.
Yeah.
Rather than like, but it was, it's definitely something to like, keeping no parts to yourself or things like that would be what like, there are certain things, and like thankfully this mom had that conversation with her son. And so it's got to be a balance of something that you're watching and something your kids are watching. And I mean, it just also sometimes it's weird because like some kids get brought into and groomed so successfully that like then they are willing to hide what is going on.
Yes.
And that's really tough. And that's why you need the other side of this. You need you need to be watching while also having great conversations with your kids and pulling it through. But yeah, it's also, and I mean, honestly, the most thing I'd say is the sextortion thing. Talk to your teenagers, talk to your young adults. Yeah. Like that's all I'm seeing, like just a heavy amount of that. And granted, I can't normally touch those.
Yeah.
So it's a tough thing with that. The things that I normally get are a whole bunch of scams relating to money, fraudulent celebrities, fraudulent like businesses, PayPal. Fake PayPal accounts is what.
Wow.
So they'll take a screenshot. They'll send you something that like, oh, you bought this. Call here if you want to. But the number sends you to a call center. And all I found thus far is call centers in India. Uh-huh. I know it mixes around a bunch, but that's very popular there. And so I was going through my list. I've gotten like over 4,000 submissions for scams, and in just a couple months. But I was going through my list, and I noticed that 2 of the numbers were the same. And then I noticed the third number was the same. And I was like, oh, they're using the same number to wire it through to this call center. And so I kept talking to them. Now, what they do is they would claim, oh, you need to hook up to the PayPal server so we can make sure that like your account wasn't hacked. And what they do is they get you with like AnyDesk, they get you with other things that like grant access to your computer, and then they steal bank data, they steal private pictures, they steal whatever they want.
Wow.
Because they have access at that point, and you can just watch.
How can you protect yourself against that?
Don't download any.
Don't download things.
Well, yeah, if someone's telling you to download something, like you're probably screwed. And that's what blows my mind is that like, yeah, it's a lot of anything. Don't download anything that can take over your computer.
Don't download things if you don't recognize it.
Yeah,
period.
I mean, downloading is an easy step for like malware and things like that.
Yes.
So don't do that. And most of the time, like I mess with these guys with clicking links. Now, I will say the call centers know not to click links, but what I can do and what's very fun to do is you can let them into a network on, say, like either like a VMware or a useless computer. Say you've like got a cleared computer up, you let them in on that account, and they'll have to come through your network to get to it.
Oh.
And so then you can just see your network, see where they're coming from, and it's like, ding, gotcha.
That's so fascinating.
So that's really fun. And I then released that number online, and they had to shut down and like reset their numbers and things like that. And so that call center got taken care of. But it's
I love when scammers get scammed.
That's essentially what I do is like I'm a scam hunter that essentially scams scammers, because that's what I've noticed is with a lot of these guys, and it's cool to see some people. There's obviously the very famous ones like Pierogi, Jim Browning, like Kit Boga that do this. But what they do and what the government and what police don't do is like you're thinking about it too, this is going to sound wrong, allegedly. You're thinking about it too lawfully. Scam the scammers. You know what I mean? Use their tactics against them because it works and it's fine. And I've checked with lawyers and everything I'm doing is totally legal, but it's very fun.
Someone sent me a story about how they scammed a scammer.
Uh-huh.
So, and he didn't scam him for much, but he just wanted to like feel like he did something, you know?
Yeah.
So this, I don't know exactly like what the ruse was, but it was pretty much like, I want to send you $20,000 that you won because like you're a winner. But for authorization, you have to send me $2,000 so that my company will authorize the $20,000. But don't worry, I'm totally safe and legit.
Yes.
And the guy obviously he's like, no, this is bull crap. So and he was pretty nifty with Adobe Photoshop. So what he did was he screenshot his PayPal or like his Venmo, whatever it was, but like not with any of the information, just to have like the outline border.
To make it look like he paid it?
Mm-hmm. Well, he made it look like he then created on Photoshop an error message. So it said like error 307, like call your bank to find so he like sent that to as a screenshot to I'm trying to send this to you, but for some reason it's not going through. Hold on, let me call my bank really quick. So he just like waits 20 minutes and he gets back to the scammer and he's like, oh, well, my bank says that it's such a large amount of money that I'm not used to sending for security purposes that you as the company have to first send me $5 to prove that you're a real company. And then they'll immediately release my $2,000 to send to you so that then of course you can send me the $20K because I'm a winner.
Yeah.
And the scammer sent him the $5.
I love that. I love that. And that's honestly, no scammers expect to be scammed. So that's what makes this side of it really easy.
It's so funny. And he's like, oh, thanks. And he goes, okay, I don't see the 2,000. He goes, oh yeah, I'm not sending that. Like, I'm not an idiot. Thanks for the $5. I'm going to go like buy me a coffee or something, but thank you for that. And he got so mad. Of course, then it flips. I'm going to find you and I'm going to, your parents will mourn you. Like,
I always get, the death threat ones always make me giggle. Because
like, what are you, no.
I had one that was doing scamming that was like, man, this is probably like the hardest line like I've ever said to a scammer, which was like, I don't know. I was just annoyed and they were doing death threats to these people. And like, that's a pretty popular scam. It's like, oh, we're going to do death threats. And then they'll pay to like not have the hitman come and kill them. I was like,
right.
I was like, okay. And so this is where it gets a little fancier. I always start by pulling an IP address. It's a really good place to start. Then I like to pull the device. And then after I've pulled the device, then I want to see like where it's been. And then I'll use like geospatial data to, because our phones sell our data.
Yeah.
So then we just
of course
use that data. I mean, you can see where people drive. You can see where people live. You can see the houses that they sleep at. This one I was able to tell him which wall he slept against and where his computer was in his room. And I go, is this your house? And is this where you sleep? And he goes, well, why don't you tell me where you live and what you do? And then I will get you. And I was like, you know, it's fun because I don't have to ask where you live. I don't know. I have to ask where you sleep.
I know.
Because I know.
Oh my gosh.
He left those people alone immediately afterwards.
Fun, like not necessarily a scam or anything like that. But I know you and I talked about like you know how to take your name and number off of databases.
Yes.
I think we talked about that.
Yeah, there's also a lot of platforms that'll do that, which is great.
Because the first house that we lived in, I guess some kids found where I lived, and I think they thought it would be funny to try and like send like pizzas to my house, and it's like it's a very innocent kind of thing, but at the same time, like you never know who's behind that. Like, don't do that. First of all, it's illegal. Like you're making this company waste food. That's
food and money,
messed up. Like that's a really crappy thing to do. But also, you're scared. Like it's not funny. It's not a prank. Like I can't stand the trend of these new pranks that they're like, ha, it's so funny. These are not funny pranks.
When they're the swatting
people,
thing,
scaring people, swatting, like it's not funny. And I don't understand when, like, what generation, what age, like people just decided genuinely harming people became funny. But maybe call me lame. I don't care. But I think it's messed up.
I was actually watching like it was a video that was like the old pranks were the best, and it was just a guy who like walked into a random park in the middle of like a random park, walks into a porta potty, and then what they do is they created essentially they could move it, and it's like a conference room that they then build really quickly on the outside of the porta potty, and then the guy just like walks out and essentially he's in a conference room. But like, there's nobody's getting hurt, but he's just confused.
Yes,
like,
he's just confused. Like that's what a prank should be. Like a very simple, like no one's harmed, no one's day is ruined.
Yeah.
I hate the pranks where I hate April Fool's Day when it's like the pranks about someone's harmed or someone's in the hospital or someone's pregnant. Like I hate those.
Yeah.
They're harmful and it's not funny. But I'm gonna stop rambling about that now.
Yeah.
Another scam. I don't know if this is common or what. But someone tried to scam me with Walmart.
Really?
Yes. I got a call. I actually had the best time with this because I knew it was a scammer.
Waste their time. That's the best thing you can do.
Scammers' times. It's so fun. So, I got a call, and if I don't recognize the number, I usually don't answer it unless I'm expecting a call. Like if I know that I should be expecting a phone number from like a doctor's office or like something that I don't have the number saved, I'll answer. And so this is one of those times. And it was this guy. It's like, hey, I think he knew my first name. Yep. He knew Rebecca. Rebecca, someone is making Walmart's accounts with your name and your phone number. We need to get to the bottom of this. So I need all this information from you to blah, 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 to make sure that like these people stop making accounts with your name and phone number. And I was like, oh, it's just my name and phone number? And he's like, yeah. And I said, oh, I guess I don't really care about that. That's fine. Like, whatever. And he goes, what do you mean? I'm like, well, they can't really do anything with my name and phone number. Like, it's not like they have access to my bank account. And he goes, well, this is identity theft. And I'm like, but they don't have any information that will harm me. So I guess it's fine. Like, I'm okay. Thanks for your concern, though. I really appreciate it. And he's like, oh, no. I'm sorry. Did I say that they were making new accounts? They were actually hacking your real one. And I said, oh, that's so weird because I don't have a Walmart account. So maybe you have the wrong Rebecca Rogers. And he's like, no, I'm pretty sure this is the right one. I said, no, I don't know, man. Do you know how many Rebecca Rogers are out there? Like, there's a whole bunch of us. I think you might be. Now we got to figure out what Rebecca Rogers this is. Okay, we can do this together. Like, let's find out where the Rebecca Rogers in trouble is. And he was trying so hard.
My favorite thing is
find a different angle.
They get frustrated so quickly and they start yelling and get so mad. And I'm like, sir, calm down.
There's a Rebecca Rogers in need somewhere.
In need,
we have to help her. And he just hung up on me. And I said, maybe he found her.
I love that. I love when they hang up on you. That's always my favorent.
I love it so much.
I realize though it has made me a little too paranoid at some point because at one point I went to a hospital and so I got out and they were calling about the billing thing, which is God, our billing system. It's just like, can I just pay? Like, why do you have to pay 3 times in 8 months? I don't know I don't know. It drives me crazy. Anyway, I'm calling them or they called me and they go, hi, is this Ryan? And I go, maybe, who's this? And they're like, oh, this is this hospital. And they go, we have like a bill for you. Can you confirm your date of birth? And I go, no. And they go, what? And I go, well, I work in like cybersecurity and scamming. Like this is exactly what. And so it's like,
this is what I'm trained not to do.
Yeah. Can you confirm some information that I gave you? And they're like, well, we're not allowed to release that because of HIPAA. And so I'm like, and so we're at this awkward stalemate where we're kind of like bouncing around where I'm like, you give me a little bit of information, I give you a little bit of information. And like we eventually made our way back to finally, I was like, oh, okay, so you guys are legit. And they're like,
you're actually a hospital. Okay,
and she's like, yeah, I get it. But that made sense actually. So we had.
That's so funny.
It was so dumb and so funny. But yeah, so I'm super on edge now. It's funny because I have a couple buddies that are just like, man, I like your content, but it freaks me out now. And I was like,
oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah.
Well, someone else sent me a story about how they like pissed off their scammer because they got the email scan of like, hey, I'm friends with your uncle Jeff. She doesn't even have an Uncle Jeff.
Yeah.
I'm friends with your long lost Uncle Jeff.
He just died.
He just passed away and left his giant fortune to you.
Please send this for the lawyer fees. Yep.
We not only just the lawyer fees. I need this information to get this to you, and we want to wire it over and put it in. Make sure it's safe and sound in your bank account, and let us help you with this. And the response back was, oh, I'm so glad that Uncle Jeff had such a good friend. Like, Uncle Jeff was such a philanthropist. Yeah. I want to follow in his footsteps. And I've decided my first good deed is to let you keep the fortune. You have fun, keep the fortune, do whatever you want with this. And the scammer was like, oh, no, it's for you. And she's like, I'll even put it in writing. This is an email. I am giving you the fortune. Be free with it. Go do whatever you want. And he's like, well, I don't want there to be any like jealousy later on. So why don't we split it?
Oh my gosh. I love that. One of the weird ones that I kept getting is people claiming to be hackers that could help you with like hacked accounts, stolen things, all this stuff. See a ton of that. And especially on my channel, I'll get comments with it and then I hunt them.
I love that.
Which has been fun. I ended up messing with a guy who had commented a bunch of things. So I go to my fake accounts and I start messaging him through different things. And I pull his information. I find out where he is. And I find out that like 2 accounts are linked to the same thing. They're using the same emails. I'm having a blast.
Right.
I post a video about it and he gets back to me on the Instagram and he's just like, is this you, Pastor Ryan? And I go, hi.
Yes.
And I go, hi, buddy. But it's crazy because now there's been a lot of scams out of Nigeria and like a ton. And that's not just a stereotype. Unfortunately, like it's very true. So Nigeria has a population of around 320 million people.
Wow.
Which is almost the size, like the amount of people in the US. Yeah. And they are 11th the size. They're 1/11th.
Wow.
So it is just, and what I found is like, super sad is it's a lot of like younger people. It's like older kids or like young adults that are just like, man, I'm just trying to like eat and like nobody cares about me. And like what sucks is like I keep getting that. And so like at the end of the day, like especially that guy, I'm actually working because I collaborate pretty regularly with the UN. We're trying to set up like different charities that can help people in this area and like fund schools and things like that. Because it's like, at the end of the day, I'm not here to like mess you up. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't want you to scam people because unfortunately, the scammers take advantage of the people that are also poor in other countries. They take advantage of people that I've had a couple of people with mental disabilities that have like, and like that are like, this probably happened to me because I'm like stupid. And it's like, whoa. First off, it's funny. One guy said that and he's like, because I have like this disability. And I was like, dude, just to let you know, I just got an email from a PhD in psychology who got scammed. You're fine. You're
like, good. It is not
you're all good.
You're fine.
But I just hope that like, that's always the takeaway is like, granted, there are some people that do it maliciously, but there are some of these guys that I'm just like, look, I know you're just trying to make it happen. And honestly, like it's just sad because like you're in a country that you don't have a lot of opportunity. And like you have, if you're in Nigeria, you have Boko Haram in the north, and then you have, the south, the government, that's a whole nother thing. But like, it's just sad. And so hopefully the takeaway is like, how can we help solve the problem at its root? Yeah. And for 100%. For some people, it's just like, they want the easiest way to make money and to take advantage of people. And in that case, I'm going to thwack them. Yeah. But like, if you're just desperate and you're trying to like do something. And granted, also, don't always feel bad for the scammers who go, I'm desperate, because they're also very good at this.
Yes.
But my whole thing is like, even if this scammer is lying to me, I know the desperation level in Nigeria, and I want to help, even if it's not him, somebody,
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
At the end of the day, I think that's the takeaway is just don't fall for scams. Hopefully, like the less people that fall for scams, the less people will try to do it. And hopefully that we can start sorting out issues at the base. And especially because I actually one of my top 5 cities on Instagram that follows me is Lagos. And
Really?
I get so many Nigerians that comment, they go, get them, because they make us look bad. And I feel so bad because it's creating a stereotype that's unfortunate, and then nobody's trusting Nigerians. And I had a Nigerian guy that got scammed by another Nigerian guy, and he messaged me, he was like, dude, I got scammed, can you help? And I was like, yeah, dude. And so we ended up putting it together. That account got taken down, but unfortunately, their police wouldn't do anything about it.
What?
We had everything.
Oh, that's so infuriating.
It sucks. But it's one of those things that it's like, unfortunately, there needs to be some systematic change for them, but there also needs to be more opportunities and the ability for, they seem to have, unfortunately, at the moment, kind of like out of control growth, and so it's a lot of like younger people that are like, my parents don't care. Like, my parents aren't here. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have anybody that supports me, so this is how I'm trying to support myself. And I'm like, man, there needs to be kind of like safety nets for those people. So
absolutely, so much needs to change.
Yeah, so that's kind of what I'm working on now, and seeing where we can go with that, as well as like other white collar crimes that are based in the U.S. because can't talk about that yet, actually.
That's okay. That's all right. Yeah, later, maybe in like a year or so. Maybe. So then, to pivot, you said one of the ways to like kind of slow down this industry, like this scammer industry, you said that like making sure other people don't fall for scams.
Yes.
So when it comes to, and we especially talked about, elderly people are huge, because like even my grandmother's scammed. That's another story I can tell in a second.
Yeah.
Like elderly people, children, disabled people. Like, what tips do you have to like be vigilant?
Vigilant?
Yeah,
I like vigilant.
I was like, wait, that's not the right word.
There's a
that
villager.
Didn't sound correct. But like, what tips do you have for like people to become more aware and safe? And like, what do you recommend for parents or elderly people or people who are taking care of their parents? Like, I'm ready for all the things.
Slow down. If they're trying to make you do it fast, they're trying to scam you.
Okay, that makes sense.
No, nobody does that. Like, there's no reason. Also, if you're paying in a weird way, that's not. Like, the U.S. government doesn't take Bitcoin. Okay, the U.S. government
doesn't take Walmart gift cards.
Right, yeah, no. Gift cards are a huge thing, and they've put it up, but it's in very small print of like, hey, you're being scammed on gift cards. No, gift cards, I think that like, as a whole, I don't know, personally, and granted, I had some pushback from this where people were like, I don't know, I like getting gift cards. And I was like, I personally don't. I'm not a gift card guy, but I think like the whole gift card industry is now being co-opted by scammers, and that's not great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that slow down. Take your time. If it sounds too good to be true, it is. Yeah. I think that there's a lot going on there where it's just don't. And this is the one thing. If you're feeling desperate, take more time. Yeah. Because that's a lot of it. Are you desperate for love? Are you desperate for money? Are you desperate for that? They know. And they are going to find a way to take advantage of that. And that's super unfortunate, but it's about standing your ground. And sometimes that's easier than not, but it's
I also feel like at some point, and we saw a lot of this when like you saw Congress trying to talk about TikTok.
Yeah.
I think a big apparent thing is that there's so many parents and grandparents that just inherently don't understand the technology that's out there. And so they're not vigilant I can't say this word. I need to stop saying it. It's one of those things I know. I know what it should be, but I can't say it.
Vigilant.
They're not vigilant for themselves, meaning they can't be vigilant for their kids, and they can't teach their kids what to look out for because they don't know what's out there. And then they can't protect their parents, who are also targets. And I feel like it just kind of creates this cycle of
victimhood.
What's the word? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I'm not an expert in this, but I think like taking the time to just be aware and educate yourself on what tech is out there. How does social media work? Like, what is normal and what is not?
Well, it's only getting better,
Exactly.
And I mean for the scammers. Like, AI is getting really good to the point they can clone voices, which is pretty cool, in a really negative way, obviously. But like, it's
yes.
There's been a lot of different things, and honestly, what I think is important is millennials actually tend to be the best at spotting scams.
Yeah.
Boomers don't. Gen X doesn't. And then everybody forgets about Gen X.
Poor Gen X.
And now Alpha and Gen Z, they also get scammed a ton. And it's because, and I always make the joke that I feel like the reason why millennials don't is because we grew up with like early internet.
Yes.
And so we saw the early scams. And like, if you've ever lost your armor in RuneScape, you know what a scam looks like because it hurts your feelings. And so like.
I used to play that Disney game, VMK. Did you ever hear it? It was like you got to make a little virtual person and like run around like Disney World.
Oh, that's cool.
Much. And you got to collect like princess dresses and like Pirates of the Caribbean costumes and things like that. And so, like, there was a scam on VMK that's like, oh, I love your princess crown. It's like a very expensive thing in VMK, like the princess crown.
Yeah. It's very
like,
special.
Can I try it on? And then they just leave. And like, that hurts you.
Yeah.
That was like the first scam I ever fell for.
That's the thing is I feel like so many kids like in the millennial or like older Gen Z got scammed as kids for things that thankfully didn't cost like real money.
Yes.
But then we were all like, never again.
Nope. I will be prepared. I don't trust nobody.
Yeah. I think a lot of it has to do with like, you know, we definitely need to educate ourselves. We need to like put that information out there. And that's kind of why I do what I do, is because it's kind of a general PSA.
Yeah.
Here's this scam. Here's what it looks like. Here's how you mess with them. And honestly, like the government needs to update laws around it, because it's just like there's no ability. I mean, like very funny. Like I caught an ex-military guy just wanted to ship his car back home. He was getting out of the military. He got scammed like I did. He messaged me and I was like, I feel so personally about that. And I found out who scammed him. I found out where they were located in the US, all this stuff. I posted it. I get an email. If you ever want to have a laxative for free, it's get an email from the government that says, hey, we saw your video. Oh, freak you out, man. It'll freak you out. That was the DOT's investigative wing. And they were like, hey, this is what we cover. And so I started talking with the DOT and ended up closing that case, taking care of it. I actually don't think I fully ended up telling that part of the story yet, but it was great. But it's really funny because like the government should not be reaching out to me. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like I am an idiot.
Yes.
But it's one of those things where it's because like they're underfunded in this regard, and they're also like
uneducated.
Well, you know, some of them are. The people making the laws around it certainly are. The people working in it are unfortunately educated in it and then hamstrung by the laws and by the fact that like they're underfunded and understaffed for something that is growing exponentially.
Yes.
And so it needs to be a shift towards more of the cyber side of protecting people. So, yeah.
Interesting.
And especially like people put it in touch like, why doesn't the NSA do something about that? Well, they're busy making sure that our like electrical systems don't get shut down by foreign actors. You know what I mean? So it's not like they can
like
do scammers.
Different priorities. Like still important, but like much different scopes.
Very much so. Yeah. So there's nothing that really falls under this scope yet.
Yeah.
It's really dedicated to it. Because I think right now it's mostly the FBI, but they're busy with way other things that also includes murderers, serial killers, bombers.
Right. Like there needs to be almost like a new department dedicated to this kind of thing.
And I think that there should be. Honestly, DHS, I think, like has kind of a large departmental scope. It would be nice if they had that, because honestly, they have a department that tracks down missing nuclear weapons. Why can't they have a department for crime?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Feels like I feel like they just don't understand the severity of it yet. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
I like to believe that, other than the fact that they just don't care.
That's right. And honestly, I do think it's like a lack of education. And honestly, I think that it's one of those. It's kind of like a mental health thing. You can't see it, so it's not real. You know what I mean? And that's kind of the thing with cyber. Well, you can't see it, so it's not real. You know. And that's the issue.
Unfortunate.
Yeah.
Well, before we wrap up, do you have any last minute anything that you want to mention, bring up, say anything at all about scams and scamming scammers?
No, it's so much fun, and I just have a great time with it. Waste their time. Yeah. Take as much time as you can. Use IP loggers, even though like, you know, you won't get much information. You can mess with them and
block them. Use that block button.
Enjoy the block button, but honestly, like have fun with it before you do, because the more time you waste of theirs, the less time they can mess with people that are probably going to be more vulnerable.
That makes so much sense.
And if you do have tech skills, learn how to clone websites and make them log into things. It's very fun. So yeah.
Well, thank you so much for hanging out
Thanks
with
for
me.
having me,
I could
Rebecca.
sit and talk with you forever.
I know.
I'm like, I need to like we will do another one later.
I would love to.
But you and I could go forever.
It could be too long. Yeah. Wow, she's got a 4-hour episode. Crazy.
Wow. I don't know who's gonna watch it. My mom.
Oh, that's lovely.
But I didn't tell the grandma story, but we'll tell it next time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, next time. Okay.
Awesome.
Thank you guys for hanging out with us today, and I hope to see you all next week. Bye, my lovelies.